Prop firms completely changed my life. I went from being broke and completely unprofitable in university to making 5 figures a month consistently just from trading prop firms. I have multiple students with multiple testimonials of them doing a similar thing, consistently withdrawing profits from prop firms in the market month on month whilst being in my mentorship. So I have the valid credentials to bring you a video today going over the benefits of prop firms and how they can actually change your life as well. Now, there are certain approaches I use to pass the challenges, and then the same approaches or similar approaches to actually take payouts and get funded with them. So in this video, I'll give you those approaches. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, I went from being broke, completely broke, making no money from trading to making 5 figures plus. And this brings me on to the first benefit of prop firms. Okay. The very first benefit is that you can make way more money off of a few percentages with prop firms than you can on a personal account. Now, let's say you put £5,000, let's say, into a broker and traded with that broker. A percent or two isn't really going to affect you that much. That's £50. Okay, 1% is £50. You make 2% on a trade, that's £100. Now £100 is £100, but if you make 2%, say on a 100k funded account, then that 2% actually becomes £2,000 after profit splits, maybe 1.4. Okay, so that same 2% that was going to be £100 is now actually 1.4-ish, okay, plus the refund you get with most of these prop firms. That is the first benefit. Now, a lot of you are screaming, okay, but you have to pass a challenge, which is true. But if you have a tried and proven strategy, a proven model that actually works in these markets consistently, repeated logic that actually has framework behind it and repeats week on week, you can easily pass these challenges. Okay, it only takes a few weeks or a few months. Okay, there is no time limit on these challenges anymore as well. This is why I was able to get multiple 6-figure funded, okay, going on 1 mil funded. Now, that £1 million of funded capital, or $1 million rather, if you break down a percent of that, it becomes a lot more than a percent on, say, a £10,000 actual live account. Now, obviously there are benefits to live accounts as well rather than funded accounts, but this is a vouch for prop firms. A vouch for prop firms changing my life individually, and I know a lot of my private students who have gained the model from me, been able to put the pieces together in trading through my mentorship, through the Discord. I know they have built a model, built funding capital, and now are changing their lives too. So that is the first benefit of prop firms. Now, as for the challenge phases, I mentioned that earlier. I want to talk about how to actually approach these and a couple tips for challenge phases. Okay, the first tip, the very first tip is make sure you can afford the challenge you're taking. Now, of course, if you actually buy the challenge, of course you can afford it. But I mean, can you afford it mentally? So say £400 for 100k, that's generally industry standard. Let's say you pay that, okay, but you only have, say, £1.5 grand, 1.5k in your bank. You pay that 400, that's a third of what you have into one challenge. The mental strain that you get from that is going to completely affect your trading. So you know that model you've developed, that model you've back tested, and that model you've collected data on that can say, I can pass this challenge in X amount of trades. That is now completely thrown out of the window. Why is it thrown out of the window? Why doesn't it matter anymore? Because it is so much more than data now. It's so much more than back testing. Your livelihood and your actual real life circumstances now depend on this challenge. So you've put all of that real life emotional pressure onto a challenge account. This is why I say start small, slowly scale up with the payouts you do actually get. So why not start with a 10k challenge? Or let's say they don't offer a 10k challenge. Start with a 20k challenge, okay? 25k, sorry, that's often industry standard. You don't need to be on a 100k challenge straight away or a 200k challenge straight away. You're going to be trading that different to how you would be trading a 25k challenge. Now, you can afford a 25k challenge and you can trade it without the emotional attachment to that challenge. that is where you actually pass the accounts and scale up. Okay, that is where it counts. Before that, if you're trading without that and you're trading too much of an account you cannot afford, it's going to completely go out the window. Your strategy that's proven, like I said, that you've spent time building goes out of the window. It doesn't matter anymore. You can practically delete it, okay? Because none of it matters. You're going to be trading emotionally. If you go into 2% drawdown, which isn't actually that bad of drawdown, and I'm going to talk about risk in a minute, I'm quite aggressive on challenge accounts, and I recommend, again, if you are trading a challenge you can afford, I recommend you to be aggressive as well. But let's say you go into 2% drawdown, which is no drawdown really on a challenge account. You have 10% to work with. 2% drawdown is going to affect you. You're not going to lower risk after that. You are going to go straight into the next trade, probably, let's be real, an hour after you just lost that one. And I've been there before as well. I've had students who have been there. I've had people come to me and say, Loz, I blew another challenge just revenge trading in the same day. I ask the same question every time. Can you afford that challenge? Or did you place all your emotional responsibility on that one challenge? No wonder you failed. No wonder you revenge traded. Okay, so how do you prevent that? Well, first of all, lower your risk. First of all, actually, make sure you can afford the challenge, like I said. Which brings me on to my second tip for the challenge phase, which is be aggressive. You don't want to be on a challenge phase forever. And again, this is all tied into that first one, making sure you can actually afford the challenge you're taking. Right. Let's say you can afford it. You buy that 25k you can actually afford. Now, be aggressive on that. Again, there are two phases to this. You may need to make 15%. If you risked 0.5%, that would take you months, maybe even a year. I've had people come to me and say, I've been stuck on a challenge for a year. What do I do? I say, you are too scared to lose that challenge. I can already tell. So people come to me and they ask, why am I stuck on a challenge for a year or a year and a bit? It's because you're scared to lose the challenge. I can tell that challenge you cannot afford. Okay? If you're scared to lose it, likely you can't afford it. Which is fine. We all start somewhere. You think I started with max allocation from FTMO and over $1 million in funding? No, of course not. I started where you are. Again, I was broke. I had no money. I had to put food on my table and work through that. Okay? And I had to go from there. So anyway, the second point and how you actually fix it. Okay? The second point is risk. I recommend a risk management strategy of 2% on the first trade. Now that some of you might be again shocked, 2% is a lot. I know it's a lot, but if you can afford the challenge, it's really not a lot. If you make 2% and you win, then you can go 1% and just get the 10%, okay, with a 3R. Let's say you do 2%, you get a 3R, okay, now you're up 6. You can risk 2% again and go for a 1 to 2, and then that's 10, right? If you lose, however, if you lose that first trade, that's why the first trade is very important. You must follow your model. If you actually lose that first trade, half the risk, because you should always be half in risk in drawdown. So 2% loss, you're obviously down 2%. You have 10% to work with, so don't be too scared, okay, if you lose the first one. Go to a percentage risk, okay? 1 to 2, make that money back, go back to break even, okay? If you get a 1 to 2 on the next trade, cut it instantly. I usually aim for 1 to 3s. That's what I've got data on. That's what I've built a model around. But if I'm in drawdown on a challenge phase, 2% drawdown, I will halve my risk to 1%, make that 2% back, and now I'm back break even. I can go back to risking 2%, and I can go to past that challenge now. I can be aggressive again. The main point is you don't want to be stuck on a challenge for too long. It can mess with you mentally, and as soon as you do that, you're calling for a disaster. As I was saying, you do not want to be stuck on that challenge forever. Okay, so as soon as you risk 2%, you are being aggressive in that challenge, and that is the better thing to do. You want to be aggressive on these challenges. You do not want to be in a phase where you're stuck on the challenge because you're scared to lose it. Okay, now that brings me on to the third tip I actually have, and that is backtest your model. Create a set of rules. This is the main thing I see people struggle with. It's the main thing I see people go wrong with, and this is why mentorship is very important. Now, I've had mentors in the past, and what did they tell me to do? They told me to outline my rules specifically. Most of you are looking for a trade. You know that. You are looking for a certain candle to expand if you watch my channel. You know that. But you do not have a set of rules of when you will engage. Okay, that's important. When, at what point, what do you actually need to see to engage with the market? Now, for example, one of my favorite models is weekly candle expansion, right? Previous day high ran into a key level. Then I want to see an hourly change in the state of delivery. Now, to some of you who are not familiar with ICT concepts, okay, that sounds like a bunch of waffle. Those of you who are, you will know that's very specific. And I want to see all that, okay, the hourly change in the state of delivery at a key time during the day. Now, again, if you are familiar with that language, you will know that those are very specific rules. And if I do not get one of them, I do not engage with price. That's very important. I need to get all three of those to engage with price. And even then, me where I'm at now with the amount of capital I am handling, even then I'm a bit, subjective. Okay, even then I'm a bit subjective with my opinion on price. If we have a big economic event tomorrow, for example, but I see my setup playing out, the amount of capital I'm trading and the level I'm at, I'm probably going to just skip that completely. I'm probably going to ignore that, okay, ignore my setup completely and say, okay, this is getting journaled anyway, but I'm not going to put risk on here. It's not worth it. I would rather wait another week and then for an even higher probability setup, the same model, okay, to present itself, and then just trade that instead. Put risk on there. And the appropriate risk. Now, I told you I would go on over once you do get funded. First of all, congratulations if you are funded. This is a big achievement. Don't downplay it, okay? Just because you see people on the internet with big capital allocation. It took us and me a while to get there, right? It took those and me a while to get to that point. Your first funding is, you should be proud of that, okay? The job is not finished though. The work is not done. Now keep your head. That's the first bit of advice. Keep your head. Trade it like any other account you would, right? Trade your model and stick to that model as always. Secondly, 0.5% risk max. And that is serious advice. 0.5% risk max. Get a 1 to 3 and just take the payout. As soon as you get a 1 to 3, whether you don't take my advice and actually do risk 1%, or do take my advice like you should and risk 0.5%, 1 to 3, whether that's 1.5% or 3%, right? Take that money. Get your refund. Go with a reputable firm. Get your refund. Take that money and run. Okay? You can reapproach in 2 weeks when you have no money stress for, say, a month or two, right? If on 100K, for example, you know, say you pull out 2,500, that's no stress for, you know, a month or two, depending on your rent, where you live, whatever your responsibilities are, whether you're a legal guardian to someone, all of that. That is money, you know, that's stress taken off your back. That's stress taken away from the charts. And that is so much in this game. I didn't become profitable until I realized I need an income outside of these charts. I need an income that pays me consistently, right? So I can focus on the charts and I can take the pressure I've put on the charts away from it. This is what I tell my students as well. Make sure, first of all, again, back to point 1, make sure you can actually afford the challenge you are trading. Secondly, make sure you have an income source. Trading cannot be your sole income source, at least not at the start. That's too much pressure for you. You need to have years of experience for that to happen. And people online, these other mentors will tell you, you can just, you know, magically make £10,000. It's not magic at all. It's years of backtesting, years of data collection, and years of training yourself to the level of a professional. Act like a professional, become a professional. And it's not magic. There's no magic strategy. It's all risk management and trading properly. Okay? With that being said, I don't want to fill your brains with too much information. I will leave that for now. This is just a raw video of the reality of trading and how I actually changed my life with prop firms. I completely changed my position with prop firms. And I feel like it's very important I make this video because I see a lot of people bashing prop firms. Now, with that being said, If you did enjoy the video and do want to learn more about my concepts and my content alone, please do like and subscribe. There are links in the description to my free Telegram and my free Discord, where I can guarantee you that the information there and the models that I've given for free over there are better than 90% of educators' paid mentorships on YouTube, right? I can almost guarantee that it is better than those paid mentorships, okay? Because it's based on logic and repeating framework. Now, if you want to learn from me privately, I am bringing one-on-one students soon. So one-on-one mentorship will be soon. It is in the works. I am working on a schedule because I need to tend to each of you individually. So that is coming. If you are interested in that, or my private Discord where I take people monthly and we trade together. We don't trade live. Okay, I don't like to take away from my own trading, but I point to levels live in the Discord. Okay, I'm saying price wants to go here and it should go from this point. Hint, right? That is the sort of thing I'm posting. I'm posting weekly outlooks and my models. Okay, I've given both of my main models inside of that Discord, right? So it is a mentorship. You can ask questions and we have a great community going over there. Like I said, I have students pulling money out of prop firms every single month. Multiple testimonials in there. So head over to the top link in the description if you want to check that out and join today and become my student, trade with me privately. If you want to support for free, please do drop a like and subscribe. Drop a comment with any feedback. Let me know if you want to see more of these just videos raw where I'm just talking to a camera. And thank you as always for watching. Thank you so much for the recent support. Check out my social media and I'll catch you guys in the next one.